pleasant good afternoon to you, viewers. I know you've been chomping at the bit. When's the conservative Pelican going to put out the rest of what happened at the 2018 NCGOP convention? Well, here I am, and for the next several minutes, I'm going to talk to you about what happened on the afternoon of Saturday, June 9th, 2018 in Hickory, North Carolina. So let me get my notes here, and we will proceed. Okay. Afternoon session started about 1:30, and we started off with the dearly departed segment. And what that is where the state party, they run a video presentation, and basically what they have is they have the names of all the Republican Party activists in the state that have passed away in the last year. This is always a great thing. It's always good to know some of the names, especially some of the last names of who was in the political game in North Carolina. Certainly, if you've lived in the state all your life or for a long period of time, you probably know the names Faircloth, Broyhill, Helms, Eastman, Hunt. All these last names of people that play the game of politics in North Carolina. I will say one little point of contention I had about this year was that my friend Todd Bennett from Pitt County, he unfortunately passed away of a heart attack sometime in 2017. And his name was not on the dearly departed list. I do not know if that was a personal decision from his family. I can certainly respect that. Or if that was more of a NCGOP decision to where maybe, I don't know if Todd did he leave the party for a while and register independent? There's a couple scenarios there that I just wanted to bring up. And then the convention carried on with a presentation by RNC Chair Roma McDaniel Romney, who used to be in the Michigan area. She is related to Mitt Romney, I believe one of Romney's sister-in-law or cousin. I don't know, but Mitt Romney's father was governor of Michigan, and then Mitt Romney was the governor of Massachusetts from 2003 2007, and he was so conservative that he passed the precursor to Obamacare. But that's enough about Romney. I could do a whole 2-hour video discussing all about Mitt Romney, his successes, and, well, a lot of failures. But okay, let's move on here. Then we have a report from the NC House, Representative John Torbitz. He says that the state income tax rate effective January 1 of 2019 will be 5.25%, which is down from 7.75%, which was in 2012 or 2013 when they started. Yeah, 2013 is when they started lowering the income tax rate. He says our target is 0, and I'm very pleased to hear that from Mr. Torbett. And he says, look, bear with us, we will get there. It's like, okay, I've been waiting for like 5 years now, okay. Yeah, that's really something that, whether it be Dan Forrest or Mark Meadows or Ted Budd, whoever is going to be the GOP nominee for governor of North Carolina, needs to run on, by the end of my first term of office, the state income tax rate in North Carolina will be 0, okay? Yeah, let's run on bold colors, not pale pastels. And that's a hat tip to Ronald Reagan, by the way. And Mr. Torbett also said 99% of families will pay less in income taxes in 2019. And then he said, you're invited to a veto override party on Tuesday, and that would have been Tuesday, June 12th. He said, look, don't worry about bringing food because there's a Krispy Kreme down the street. And he says, after one-party rule for 140 years, we didn't think there would be anything left to fix. But we are busy every year fixing the Democrats' mess. Okay, so next we have a report from North Carolina Senator Andy Wells in the state legislature. Said, he used to be only one. I don't know what I put there, but he is from the Catawba Valley. Says that when the legislature took over in 2011, there was a nice little gift from the Democrats of a $2.5 billion deficit, and now he says they have a $3 billion reserve fund. And if that doesn't seem impressive enough here, folks, that is a swing of money of $6 billion, big B, $billion swinging from deficit to surplus. And maybe they could take some of that surplus and continue to lower taxes, huh? Come on. Anyway, and then they're also working on constitutional amendments such as the voter ID and the gun rights, and they've also defunded sanctuary cities. And he said basically, Democrat Governor Roy Cooper is bad news. We already know that. What's the guy's name again? Oh, Andy Wells. We already know that, Mr. Wells, but thanks for reminding us. And he says that Roy Cooper's budget proposal is going to have a $500,000 deficit with higher taxes and out of control spending. Or I shouldn't really call him Governor Roy Cooper. I should call him Roy the Cooper Pooper, because I said in another one of the videos, all he does is he sits on the toilet all day, does his digestional business, and he picks up his cell phone and he sues Republicans instead of actually trying to work with them. Kind of like how Larry Hogan in Maryland is working with the Democratic legislature to get good results in Maryland, while Roy Cooper refuses to work with the Republicans on anything. It's ridiculous. Okay, now we have Congressman Patrick McHenry, and he says, look, we need to get more Republicans in the Senate so we can repeal Obamacare. They were one vote short. And do you know who the one vote was? His name has been in the news a lot this week. Yeah, John McCain. Rest in peace. I have the utmost respect for his family, during this time of suffering. But his legacy, to me and many other conservatives of the GOP, is that he is John McPain, because he has been so painful to conservatives over the years. But Congressman McHenry also went on and said they're rolling back ISIS and they're rebuilding the VA, the Veterans Hospital. He also says that all the Democrats are doing is, well, they're rallying for single-payer health care and the impeachment of Trump. Yeah. And then he had a tip for us activists as we go door to door. And we're shooting this on the 31st of August of 2018. And we have something called an election in about 2 months and 1 week and a few hours, but who's counting, right? But he says, as you go door to door, just ask your neighbors, are you better off than you were 2 years ago? And he says, I know I am, and I hope a lot of other people are too. Then we have the NC Courts of Appeals candidates with Mr. Drew Heath, and I will say that Drew is a personal friend of moi. We both used to live in the Wilmington area, and we're both very active with the Lower Cape Fear Young Republicans back from about 2010 to about 2014 or so. But Drew Heath is running for Superior Court judge. and he used to be Governor Pat McCrory's budget director, and he's held court in 32 counties. North Carolina has 100 counties. That's about a third of the state. Wow. Then we have Chuck Kitchen, who says he's filed the most briefs in the appellate courts. Sandra Ray, running as a judicial candidate. She did a video. She says she couldn't make it due to her daughter's high school graduation. Lives in the Wilmington area. 27 years legal experience, and 14 of that is as a judge. Then we have Jefferson Griffin. And what happened at the convention, I should say the executive committee meeting, was we had a battle with Jefferson Griffin versus Sandra Ray for the judicial seat that is going to be vacated effective 2019 by Anne Marie Calabria. And a lot of that stuff, it happened at the executive committee meeting, which will be on another video at another time. So Jefferson Griffin is from Wake County, was reelected in 2016 to a judicial seat in that county. He grew up in Nash County, which is a rural county, the Rocky Mountain area, about 30 to 45 minutes east of Raleigh. He says, I will not legislate from the bench. He serves in the National Guard as well. And then we have the big one, as far as judicial races go this year. Justice Barbara Jackson, who's running for re-election, and she says, my opponent has no judicial experience, and she says judges must exercise judicial restraints, and she's offered hundreds of opinions. And she also says, look, there's $2 million coming from the left, the Democrats, for a Supreme Court seat in Wisconsin. And she says, look, I mean, they could spend $2 million in Wisconsin. Think about how much they'll spend in North Carolina. And I should say that Barbara Jackson is great. Very good, conservative, reliable justice. She is in a very tough race, though, because unfortunately we have this person named Chris Anglin, who is technically a Republican, but he changed his party affiliation like a week before filing period from a Democrat to a Republican. And he hardly has any friends in the state party. All his parties are buddies with Governor Roy Cooper, a.k.a. the Cooper Pooper. And yeah, that's why I don't like him. No authentic conservative Republican should have any business whatsoever supporting Chris Anglin in this Supreme Court seat. You must vote for Barbara Jackson. Okay, do it. Remember, Election Day, November 6th. Okay. So we continued. We're going now into business session. We had the report of the Credentials Committee, and that was drama-free. It's good. And, of course, I talked all about credentials in another video on my channel, so please go back and watch that if you want to go into credentials in more detail. But now we're going to move into resolutions. And Skip Stam, Representative Skip Stam, is the chairman of this year's resolutions committee. And he said that we begin taking resolutions for the state convention in December. And then the state convention is always in June, or if there's a presidential election, it usually moves to 2 weeks earlier in the middle of May. But he made a point that says, look, get these resolutions into us early, and your district representative on the committee, and we will put them in the red book. So that's what he said, and we will try to hold Representative Stam at what he said. The first resolution on the table was a resolution to oppose the legalization of marijuana. And the person that was speaking on this resolution was Rosemarie Stein, who is a pediatrician in the Raleigh area. She is an activist of children and families, and she said that children have a bad outcome when they grow up in a drug community. And she also said that children grow up making poor decisions, they are emotionally unstable, and it creates a psychological addiction. And he says there is a bill in the General Assembly to legalize marijuana, and President Trump also supports legalizing marijuana. And now we have opposition to this resolution. Again, remember, the resolution was to oppose the legalization of marijuana. And this is now going to be speaking on supporting the legalization of marijuana. And this comes from, I did not get the guy's name, but he is works as an EMS in Wake County and is a member of the Young Republicans chapter in the Raleigh area. And he says this resolution is full of errors and 90% of Americans support medical cannabis. And then we again have a person speaking to oppose marijuana, and this person is the ER doc in Rutherford County out west part of the state. And they said there's been an increase in ER visits and car wrecks, and that 68% of patients have mental issues that are very similar to drug use. And now we have support to legalize marijuana from a person in Granville County. He said, or I don't know if it was he or she, some of these, they were coming at me so fast, I was like typing, some of these I just got the county, so I apologize. And if you spoke on these resolutions and I did not put your name, please comment below and give yourself credit. Granville County, who supports legalized marijuana, says we should put out a resolution saying we oppose alcohol. I mean, this is not a Republican issue, it's a personal issue. And then we have Eddie Lance from Transylvania County. That is way out west. That's closer to Knoxville than Raleigh. And he said that marijuana is a gateway drug. All inmates start drug use with marijuana. Matter of fact, he says niece is in jail for 20 years for marijuana. Colorado crime is up, and in other states, it says we are about strong families and what God wants us to do. We should not be about legalizing marijuana. Okay. And this amendment passed. I don't know what did I put there. Let's see. Okay. Ada Fisher basically opposes the amendment, resolution to for the opposition of marijuana. It says she wanted to make a motion to table and needs to be rewritten. Billy Miller, who's the convention chairman, said that the motion to table can only be used if there is an emergency reason to stop business, such as the building's on fire or Lieutenant Governor Dan Forest has arrived to speak at the convention. So they take a vote on this resolution, and the resolution fails because it does not get 2/3 support. But it was close. There was 63% of the convention body that opposes marijuana. 37% support marijuana. So it was only like 3 percentage points from having the resolution to oppose marijuana use. Okay. Next, we have the resolution to allow unaffiliated voters to vote in GOP primaries, and because this resolution was not sent to the resolutions committee before the 30 days prior to convention, it was instead printed and 1,000 copies were distributed in the convention hall in every seat. This resolution needed 2/3 vote to be heard, and basically took a standing vote, and more than 2/3 said they wanted this resolution to be heard, which I think is a good thing. So first we have opposition for this resolution, and I have to tell you that I agree 100% with what this gentleman said. He said, you do not have a right, unaffiliated do not have a right to determine our primary, our Republican nominee. And he said, over the last 5 or 6 years, people have written resolutions, but it never makes it out of committee, and it's never in the red book. Again, he was alluding to this concept that I actually learned back in 2014 from Maddie Lawson, who was an activist way out east in Dare County in the Outer Banks. And she says that, unfortunately, from her experience on being on a resolutions committee, she says a lot of resolutions, they fall into this black hole. In other words, people will send resolutions to resolution committee, and they'll never hear back one way or another whether or not they're going to be heard. Black hole, right? So first on this resolution, the person who supports this resolution, I'm a little surprised and disappointed, is my friend Michelle Nix from Lenore County, and I'm the state GOP vice chair. She says, she's reading word for word from the resolution, and it said in 1987, the North Carolina General Assembly amended the state's election laws to allow unaffiliated voters to vote in the primary elections of political parties that adopt resolutions permitting such participation. In 1988, the North Carolina Republican Party was the first political party in North Carolina to allow unaffiliated voters in our primary. Only after seeing that this provided political opportunity for the NCGOP did the North Carolina Democratic Party leader follow suit. And let's see, and on this resolution too, it says that unaffiliated voters have overwhelmingly participated in the Republican Party party Republican primary. And I crunched the numbers in the last 4 election cycles, 2010, 2012, 2014, 2016, the Republicans, the unaffiliated voters, are requesting a Republican ballot by a margin of 18 points better than they request a Democrat ballot. And then also it says independent data analysis, and the NCGOP's own research estimates that approximately 68 to 73% of unaffiliated voters who selected the GOP primary ballot in 2016 voted for President Trump in the 2016 general election, regardless of which Republican they voted for in the primary. So Michelle Nix, as well as Charles Hellwig of Lake County and Linda Engel of Mecklenburg County, they do have some valid points, but this next gentleman that speaks in opposition to allowing unaffiliated to vote in our primary is a man that I've never met, but he's spoken at many conventions in the past, and when resolutions or plan of organization or any of this stuff comes up to vote or debate. His name is Steve Radner of Beaufort County, which is way out east. That's the Washington, Chocowitney, North Carolina area. But Mr. Radner is always spot on his analysis, and I really hope that I'll meet him in person someday, and I'll shake his hand and say, "Well done, sir." And I think he's probably in his 50s or 60s, but he's a little bit older than me, but I really like the guy. And what he said was, look, there's no data that supports, of course, we just said that, but excuse me, it allows liberals to hijack elections. He said that New Hampshire and South Carolina have open primaries, and in South Carolina, we would not have Lindsey Graham still a senator if the primary was closed. And then he said that all of the straw polls in 2014 at all the county district conventions showed that Greg Brannon would be the Republican nominee for Senate, but we ended up with Tillis instead. And then we have Robin Hayes, and let me tell you something. Robin Hayes, he does some good things, but then he does some pretty awful things. And in this particular scenario, he cuts in line, okay, of other people who wanted to speak on this resolution. And he says, I urge you to support this amendment. If an unaffiliated doesn't get a GOP ballot, they will vote a Democratic ballot. I'm like, come on, man. So this resolution, it fails, which is a good thing. It doesn't get the 66% watermark. However, when you look at the data, 61% of delegates at the state GOP convention, they support allowing open primaries as opposed to only 39%. I'm like, say what? Anyway, looking at my time here, I have to stop this video right here. I have to get ready to go to work, but I will continue this. I can't talk today. I will do the rest of the convention video, hopefully by the end of Labor Day weekend sometime. So, let me close with this. For the Conservative Pelican, I'm Bobby Crawford. Thanks for watching.